Welcome to episode 41 of Thrashcast. My name is Billy, and I'm here with my co-hosts Jim and Ken. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right, sir.
Doing great.
Very good. We're halfway through the holidays at this point, so
Yeah.
we're moving along here. So just quickly to remind folks where they could find Thrashcast. So our website www.horrormetalsounds.com, and of course on YouTube at Horror Metal Sounds at Kenji.2864. And as I usually request, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you enjoy each of our weekly podcasts, again, give us a like, a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps our channel grow. As my co-host Jim announced on the last episode, we're making some good progress. We're now working our way to 1,000 is our next goal. So definitely appreciate your support. So in terms of topic today, I got the album here, but I'm not prepared. So we're going to
Nice.
Australia. This is probably the first time we did an Australian band. So we've got Mortal Sin, and we're doing Face of Despair from 1989. And an interesting exercise, I think. Our top 10 will be top 10 Australian thrash bands or thrash albums, however we did it. So at least for me, that was a bit of a challenge. I had to go
It
back
was.
Yeah.
and
It
test
was.
my memory and a lot of the stuff like on my top 10 list, there are things that I had for years on an old like TDK cassette.
Same here.
Yeah.
It's impossible to find copies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a fun exercise. So I'm sure Jim and Ken would join me in looking forward to revealing that our top 10. Okay, so before we get going with Mortal Sin, our usual news and what's spinning segment, Jim, do you want to kick us off today?
Yeah, I don't really have any news, but
Okay,
what's spinning? Picked up some stuff over the holidays.
what you got?
First thing that just arrived was my Evil Dead Toxic Grace album. I
Woo!
just
Nice.
Nice.
posted this on Facebook like 20 minutes ago.
Oh,
Picked it up, been watching it, and the price was right, so pull the trigger. We
Nice.
love the cover art on this
Yeah,
baby.
it's great.
Yeah, so it's not even open yet. Like it's still sealed. I
Woo.
just it was on my porch like an hour ago.
Yeah.
This is kind of a cool pickup. I saw it on some other podcasts like throughout. I've been watching a lot of top 15, top 20, top 5 lists, and this hit a lot of lists. It's Wolfheart.
Yeah, Wolford.
And I thought this one's Draconian Darkness. So not really super familiar with them, but a really cool sort of melodic death metal band from Finland.
Yeah.
So definitely check them out. They're pretty cool. With the podcast I was watching, the guy swore by it. It was like in his top 15, so I decided to stream it, and then absolutely fell in love with it. But I picked this up, Van and Plas, and I've been listening
Cool.
to it like crazy. This is a really neat one. It was actually on Perrin from the Metal Voices top. I think it was his top album, or I think it was his number 2, maybe. But anyways, didn't really know about them, and then decided to digitally spin it, and just totally awesome. I mean, it's kind of a I don't know. Dream Theater's got a new album coming out. I like the couple of the singles that are already off it, but I'll tell you, this will give them a run for their money. This is really, really good prog metal. This album only has like 6 songs on it. They're all like 8 to 15 minutes, but really cool. My Akarian Flight, gotta check that song out. Absolutely love this band. I'm even checking out. They've got a couple of live albums, and I think that's their fourth or fifth. They've got a number of albums,
yeah.
so I'm definitely going to check them out. Billy, did you ever see them over in Wacken
I
or
have
anywhere?
seen them. I've
Okay.
seen them once. I'm a big fan, actually, from their very first album.
Oh,
I
okay,
like them,
great.
yeah, for sure. And it's funny. So I didn't realize that was a 2024 album
Yeah,
because I own it, but I never even dawned on me when we did our top list to go pull that.
yeah.
So yeah, that's probably a miss. It should have at least been honorary mention, I guess. But yeah, they're great, and yeah, I like the way you compare them to Dream Theater. But one thing I always like, sometimes Dream Theater, some of the albums they can get like really into they can lose me in like a 15
Yeah,
minute song, right? Just with all the over noodling. But like those guys, they're always like keeping the song first, right? So
yeah.
you stay in it. They're very good at that. They don't push the prog too far.
Right. I
Yeah,
agree. And it's almost kind of like a more digestible prog album, like a
yeah,
more, and I agree with that. There's a lot of Dream Theater. And I know you guys are fans of Dream Theater, but from album to album, it can get pretty, yeah, like you said, noodly. And you're
yeah,
getting so deep into it that it kind of loses a bit of its focus. I find this constantly kind of calibrates itself every
yeah.
song. And I listened
Great
to their
stuff.
past couple of albums too, which I've got on order. And I'm an instant fan. Absolutely love it, and I can't believe this. I missed this as well. Like, but I got to be honest. I wasn't aware of the band prior to this, so
You didn't hear them at
definitely
all, Jim? I'm
that's
surprised you didn't.
no, and that's the
Oh,
thing about these top 10, top 15 lists. Why we love doing them. You always
sure.
see on somebody else's list. I got to check that out, and all of a sudden now, I'm an instant fan. So definitely
Oh, cool.
a great pick there for sure. That's
Yeah,
all I've
you
got, guys.
you could get them all, Jim. Like you may as
Yeah.
well just start ordering them.
Oh yeah.
I know you. You're gonna
Yeah,
like them. So
he's
I
gonna
have
go
the
down the
live.
rabbit hole.
They've got a like a 2 disc live album. I ordered that yesterday. Listened to that last night, and it's man, like the crowd participation in the show just sounds it's so epic.
yeah,
It's really, really good music.
yeah. No, good stuff. Cool.
That's
That's
what
it,
I got,
Ken?
guys.
All right, sounds good. Ken, over to you.
Well, since we're like posting this episode on January 3rd, which will technically be 2025, I got a couple announcements for new releases. You guys might have seen this. The new Warbringer is coming out in
Mm-hmm.
March 14th. So the first single, A Better World, is actually going to be released on January 7th.
That'll be wicked.
So this will be their seventh studio album, and apparently the same lineup from the Weapons of Tomorrow album. So this is pretty good. The album is called Wrath and Ruin. I saw the album cover; it looks pretty nice.
Yeah, the
So
artwork is cool.
yeah, the artwork is nice. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see where they go with it. Last few albums have been pretty decent, so I'm assuming with the same lineup, you'll be getting the same kind of sound. So I'm looking forward to that. And then there's another band coming out called Black Talon from the UK. They're going to be releasing their sophomore album, Scenes of Agony, on January 31st. I bring this up because it's on Wasted State Records. They did release a previous album in 2015 called Endless Realities. They're from Edinburgh, Scotland, so it's nice that you get another Scottish thrash band coming out beyond Gamma Bomb. The vocalist is Johnny Steele. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Joey Belladonna at times. He's got that high range with the vocals. There's tons of gang shouts on it. You can listen to their previous album on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you want to stream it. Give it a go. It's pretty good. I really like it. It's got a very Anthrax kind of punky vibe to it. So I'm kind of curious to see where they go with this one. And yeah, it comes out on January 31st. And that's all I have for this week.
And Destruction.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
Destruction coming out, and I pre-ordered my copy.
Cool. Yeah. I forgot that's coming out too this year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like March, I think, right?
March 7th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Early March. So I guess the first half of 2025 is going to be good
Oh yeah,
for albums, at least. At least it's seeming that way.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. I also ordered the new Dream Theater one, and I ordered.
that's
believe it
great.
or not, I had to kind of pre-order the Havoc EP, even though that's already out.
The Havoc, yeah.
But it's not. I think on physical. I don't know on albums like on vinyl, but I know on CD it's not released for another month.
Yeah, it's on digital. It was digitally released. That's why
Yeah.
you would have heard it back then. So I guess I think when they recorded it, it was independent. So I think they now got a label. So that's why it's coming out on CD now.
Cool.
But that's worth getting. That's worth getting.
Cool. Anything else,
That's it for
Ken?
me. No, that's it for me.
All right, cool. So a couple quick along the same theme as Ken, some 2025 stuff. So for some reason, I keep seeing Dark Angel updates. Uh,
Yeah.
so recently, Gene Hoglan did a post, kind of a cool post. Like he did this whole like Instagram thing with like bats flying at his head, and but basically to say he finished all the drumming on the new album. So that's pretty cool. Then the band did a post, probably like in the last few days, saying their next show, January 29th, they're going to reveal the new tracks,
Nice.
play the new tracks. So that should be cool because we'll be able to go on YouTube and
Sure.
actually get to see them, right? So
Yeah.
this album that's been in the works forever, we're finally going to see, hopefully, the light of day, but no release date still. So I don't know if it's going to be 2025 or get pushed, but. Um, so that's that. So that's 2025. One interesting thing I saw, I don't know if you guys knew this, it's kind of unusual. So Time Magazine, they actually in their year-end edition, they do the 10 most important records of the year.
Okay.
Kind of like we do. And
Mhm.
I don't know if they've ever had a metal album in it, but they did this year.
Okay.
And it was the seventh most important album of 2024. And it was Blood and
Yes.
Incantations Absolute Everywhere
Yeah,
as
that's great.
being an album that
Great pick.
everybody in the United States should buy. So I think
Absolutely.
that's pretty cool. Like, because this is
Yeah.
death metal, right?
Yeah.
Sure, they're got Pink Floyd and they got prog metal, but it's still death metal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was yeah, but so you can go online, look up Time Magazine top albums, and it's
Oh,
right
cool.
there, like in their listing, and everything else is like pop music or stuff you'd never hear of.
Yeah. There it is. You
There he
got it.
goes. So still fresh from our top, right? We all had it in our top 15, if I remember right. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I think it was
That was
on
my
our
number
top
one. Yeah.
top three because it was number
Yeah,
two for me. So it was
yeah, it
like
was number two for me too. Yeah.
yeah. So it's
And
pretty much
then
in our top three.
yeah, I know, agreed. And then one last thing, which is interesting, it's kind of got me thinking, and various band members have been posting this, but the surprise announcement that Nevermore is returning
Oh
in
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
2025.
No.
So my
Crazy.
first thought is, yeah, not right, right? Like without Ron
No.
Dane, who passed in 2017, like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like former band members made the announcement, like Jeff Loomis, who we all know, who's been in multiple bands, the guitarist, and Van Williams on drums announced it. Like it popped up on all social media saying Nevermore 2025, but not a lot of detail. So me personally, I don't think it's right, but I think it was interesting today. The other member jumped in, Jim Shepard.
Jim
Mhm.
Shepard. Yeah.
It's completely disrespectful and an
Whoa.
insult to Worrell, and he would
Yeah.
never participate in such a thing.
Okay.
So like he was just like adamant that this should not be done. So I think,
No.
yeah, it's one of those where like I guess you get a couple band members who I don't know just want to keep bring it back to life. Like what's Jeff doing now? Is he an arch enemy or
No,
Jeff?
he left. He left.
Yeah.
Arch
So
Enemy. He's
is he
gone.
not in? He's not in
Loomis.
any band?
No, no. He left Arch Enemy last year.
Oh, okay. So that's how most
It was
work.
an amicable split. Apparently, they
Oh,
mutually departed, and he hasn't been in the band since.
hmm. So I don't know. I mean, to me, that makes it a bit worse, right? You're bandless, and then you want to bring back something that that's really associated with Worrell, right? Like, so I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
he is the band, dude.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I hear
Like
you.
his voice is the band. Without
Yeah,
him, there's no band.
yeah. But
Sorry.
then Sanctuary continued after his death, right? Like they had that
He
singer
did. Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Witherfall, right? Joseph Michael, who replaced him and went on tour,
Yeah,
and
he's okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they get him. They say, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't agree with Sanctuary continuing either, and I don't agree with Nevermore.
Well, I don't mind the fact that Sanctuary came back.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It's okay. I think there. I mean, there was a major dent with the Nevermore stuff, so I think it resonates more with people than say Sanctuary does. So I
Hmm.
could give Sanctuary a pass, but not Nevermore.
Hmm. I actually prefer Sanctuary over Nevermore.
Oh,
So,
do
Same
you?
here.
Oh, okay.
but yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know. I just think he's so closely tied to both bands. I'm
Yeah.
equally offended that they would continue without him. And
Okay.
Nevermore probably was that Worrell's band? Like really
Yeah,
was
it's World.
yeah, it's his band, right?
Yeah, Worrell and Loomis, they created the band together because
Okay, so Jeff was a co-creator.
yeah, oh yeah. Jeff, it's his. He's a founding member. They were the two founding members.
Okay, so
Because
then
if I remember correctly, when they did I think Jeff was playing in Sanctuary before they broke. I think he was doing some tour, like live touring with them
hmm,
before they broke up. And then when they split, Jeff joined War with Nevermore,
hmm,
from my understanding, if I got it right.
okay. Well, I don't know. Like, yeah. So I've shared my view. I don't know, but we'll see. No detail. Like, is it a new album? Is it a tour? It just said we're going to be doing something in Neon Black in 2025, which of course was one of their big albums, Neon
Yeah,
Black.
it's a great album. Love
Uh,
that album.
so yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I
oh
think we
well.
all will.
Yeah, exactly. So that's in terms of news, and then one item for what's spinning. So again, I echo Jim's comments. My favorite time of the year is looking at the top 20 or top 10 lists of people and people I follow on Instagram, and I've been discovering all kinds of cool new music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those is a band which, shame on me, is from Montreal, where I'm from, and I totally missed them. Like I was on a train ride to Montreal when I was sending notes to Jim and Ken about this. But this is really cool. So the band's
Yeah.
called Dissimulator, and this is called Lower Form Resistance. So yeah, I would say it's like death thrash, but technical death thrash. You hear elements of like I would say Voivod, Cynic, Oblivion, some Quebec
Anthrax.
influences in there, but also some of that like Anthrax
Yeah.
riffing is in here in some songs. So it's a good mishmash of stuff, but it's really well written. And if you slant to technical metal, I think you'll really like this. And the artwork is really crazy
Yeah, it was
too.
great.
I
Yeah.
I have no idea what the hell's going on there, but.
It looks
Uh,
like some kind of weird machine.
yeah, right. But it's a head, right? Because he's
It's a
wired
head,
Yeah.
yeah.
going in the mouth here. So I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Did you guys get a chance to listen? I know
Oh
you
yeah, I've
Yes.
heard
did,
it. Yeah,
Ken.
I've heard the whole
Jim,
thing. I
Jim, did
really like
you?
it.
I've got to listen to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I know it's good. Yeah, I think you'd like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Jim, you would like it. I know you like Anthrax, and there's an Anthrax vibe to it. I think you'll
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. So yeah, so that's good. That's worth checking out. And it's on a $20 spin, so it's relatively easy. I
Pretty
was
easy
in
to get.
Montreal. I walked into the first record store on in the Plateau area and was able to pick it up right away. So
Nice.
Nice.
that was pretty cool. All right, so let's get back to the topic of the day. Again, Mortal Sin, Face of Despair. There's a bit of a glare there, so we'll talk about the album cover shortly in the question.
Wicked.
But just a quick biography. We've already said it. The band's from Australia. They were actually formed fairly early. 1985 is when they first started. I would say, arguably, or not arguably, the most successful Australian thrash band, and they did kind of break internationally. Five albums in total. The first two are the most well known, Mayhemic Destruction, and then, of course, the Face of Despair that we're talking about today. The band did get to tour with a lot of big names like Megadeth and Metallica and Anthrax, Testament, a lot of times when they came through Australia, though. But they did make it to the US. They played Wacken in Germany. So they did seem to definitely get the most attention internationally. The band sort of has been in constant, I don't know, chaos. They broke up four times. They're currently either on break or broken up. Members were like doing other things. The singer changed at one point. They had like all kinds of management issues. So it was a rough road. And so obviously not surprising that all that stuff helped kill their momentum. Some talk of a reunion, like around, I don't know, like 2020, there was talk of a comeback and then nothing since. So I don't know what's going on there. And then the lineup for Face of Despair was Wayne Campbell on drums, Matt Moorer on vocals, Paul Caruana on guitar, Mike Burke on guitar, who sadly passed away. Oddly enough, speaking of Warren Dane in the same year, they both died in 2017. And then bass was Andy F. Dichu, and apologies to him if I didn't pronounce that right, which is very probable. Okay, so as always, we got our questions related to the band. And so this is a band that obviously, the three of us are from Canada. So definitely we're not going to call it, something to our neighbor in the US or from Canada that we would have had easy access to. So that sort of led me to the first question. Just how and when did you guys discover Mortal Sin? Jim, you want to start?
Yeah, there was like, so probably once every couple of months I would make it downtown, especially when we had like family in town, especially over the summer months. So I'd hit the right on, I think it was right on Gottingen Street or whatever. They had like a 3-level Sam the Record Man. So you could go in there and like, the level 1 was kind of just regular stuff and regular metal and that, but you get like, they did a lot of imports and stuff. And then they would have stuff that was maybe brought in and not paid for, or somebody didn't change their mind or whatever. And they was always, I picked up this album there on cassette, and I think I still have it. I got to find it. I've been rifling through all my cassette boxes, but I haven't found it yet. I know I would still have it.
And what album is that? Sorry,
The
Jim?
one we're doing.
Face of Despair. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
Face of Despair. So, and I would have got it probably, God, that might have been 90, 91. And it was, I know it was on, the guy gave it to me cheap because it was kind of somebody didn't want it or whatever, and it was a special order. So that's where I got my first Voivod back in the 80s as well. I got Warren Payne there. I actually had to order that, but so I picked that up, and that would have been 90 or 91. I think I probably the first time I listened to them. And then I think I ended up picking up their first album, and then I kind of lost them after that, I'll be honest. I didn't realize they had as many of those albums after in the 90s. And it's funny because if I bought that in 91, I believe they had releases in the early 90s. So kind of funny they didn't direct me to maybe, but probably didn't carry it, I guess, or
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, I love the cover, and I mean, it's absolute thrash. I love it. And the sad thing is, I mean, I would love a reunion, especially now. I don't know. I mean, it would be great. I think the first album, Mayhemic Destruction, they did, I think it's got a 20-year, it did a remaster, or they did a re-release with it.
yeah.
So
And
that's
they
kind of
changed
cool.
the album artwork too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So I mean, this band, as far as I'm concerned, man, if they could get a lineup together and kind of put something out, I think very talented, and I'd love, it would be cool, like even if they were to play like Wacken again, or some festivals in Europe at least, and get them back on YouTube and get to maybe get some new material. I think it would definitely be worth it. Their last album, I can't even remember what it's called.
Psychology of Death.
Yeah, it's actually
I love that album.
really,
That
really
album's
good.
amazing.
I like it. I like it. And I got to be honest, I was like, wow, okay, why didn't I hear this? Why didn't I pick up on this? But it was just so far out of my wheelhouse. I think, here in Canada, especially here on the East Coast, nobody at that point would be touching any of this stuff in the stores with everything going on, and but I'm going to source a lot of this stuff out. I'd like to get it on physical copies. I think that came out in 2011, I believe. 2010, yeah. So like that's still not even, that's only 13 years ago or whatever.
You're gonna have a hard time finding that stuff, Jim. It's not gonna be easy to find.
Well, I saw even on Amazon the stuff's going, some of it's going for like $122.
Yeah, because it's all out of print, right?
Yeah.
Well, even their first two albums, until the last couple of years, you couldn't get those either, right?
No, that's true.
When they did, like the vinyls were going for like $200 easy.
Wow.
For the first two albums. And then finally, just like I'd say maybe 2020 was when they first did a reissue.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's when I first heard of them.
Okay, cool. How about you, Ken?
Yeah, it's not for me. I can't share Jim's story that way because I mean, I'd heard of them, but I never had could get my hands on physical media like a CD or cassette or anything back then. So for me, when the internet started, then I was able to go back and research all this stuff. So if you go on the classic thrash or B&R metal pages way back then, you could
Yeah,
read about this stuff. That's how I really started to find out about them. And then you start looking for like rips online to find, and then you get YouTube years later, and then these all show up. So that's kind of where I started getting into them. Although I knew of them, I just never, yeah, back then you just weren't able to get your hands on anything.
yeah,
Not that I know of. I mean, I used to go into the record peddler all the time in Toronto, and I never saw any of that stuff there. But I mean, it's nice to go back now to hear it. I would agree, Jim. It would be great to go back and get that stuff.
yeah,
Good luck finding it. All I
yeah.
gotta say is good luck finding it because I don't think you're
Yeah.
gonna find it.
No, makes
So,
sense. Yeah, and it's interesting because I found out about the band kind of like in between the first two albums,
okay.
you're right, we didn't have the internet, but I had I was like someone who bought the next best thing. I was buying all the magazines, and the
Yeah.
first thing I would do every month is hit the review section.
Yeah.
So I actually think it maybe was Metal Maniacs. Was that the one? Because they did a lot of thrash in the 80s.
Yeah.
Metal Maniacs
And
magazine.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, they had it right there. And I remember going to, in Montreal, we had a great record shop called Rock on Stock.
Okay.
And, they had everything there. So I was able to pick it up. So I was a bit lucky there. But yeah, that was my big thing. Yeah, the internet makes it so easy. But then that new month when the magazines came out, I'd be like going to the magazine store and then hit I didn't care about the stories, the stupid posters. I just wanted the new reviews, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew what to buy. So that was pretty cool. Okay,
So
yeah,
you can get Mayhemic Destruction on Amazon for
Yeah.
23.48 from the UK. That's Canadian with 3.99 shipping. So
Okay.
that's
That's
on
not bad.
CD. That's not bad. I think that's obviously the reissue, but
yeah.
still,
You see, the cover art is probably different, right?
yeah, it is different. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reissue. That's what I have on vinyl.
and I think Face of Despair they actually have. It looks like to me a red vinyl for like 35.68, which isn't
That's not
bad.
bad.
That's what
Yeah,
I have. Uh,
yeah.
that's what this is, and this actually just came out in the last month or two.
Oh,
Yeah. Didn't
nice.
you? Yeah. I thought you posted. Yeah. Yeah. You posted on
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah.
Billy. I saw your post.
Yeah. So I've had these on CD from on cassette from the earliest days.
Right, right.
Yeah, like I
Okay.
said, the vinyl was impossible, but thanks to the new reissues,
Yeah,
you could get
Okay.
them. So yeah, I was very happy.
That's cool.
cool.
Cool. Okay, so then next question. So this is a bit more of a theme, I guess. So probably the most successful band coming from Australia was AC/DC, but we're a thrash metal show. So there definitely were, and we'll see in our top 10 list, we have a number of thrash bands. But it was very hard for them, and even Mortal Sin, they had a very limited period of success, like internationally. So just curious to why do you think that was like for it was such a struggle for Australian bands? I mean, Canada was a small country too, but a lot of our bands hit it, fairly big in the U.S. and Europe as well. So what do you think was happening in Australia that limited the success?
Well,
Ken, we'll start with you.
well, lack of distribution is probably the
Yeah,
main reason I would think. They weren't on a major label, like on a major US label, so that's probably a lot to do with it. And also, you are going up against ACDC, that they have a large shadow. Like they're the biggest band on the planet, really. When you think about it, like if you look at say Guns N' Roses, ACDC, two of the biggest bands on the planet, like they're huge and have been for years and still are, even though they're on the downside of their career with a few changes in the band's lineup. They're still a huge band and they're touring again this coming year. So any thrash band trying to make a living there, good luck. Good luck at doing that because I don't think you're able to do that just based on what you're there. And also, like, even not even just ACDC, but Kylie Minogue, who's like a pop star, was a huge pop star, actress, Men at Work, like all these just, and you mentioned Midnight Oil earlier, Billy, before we started recording. Yeah, all these mainstream acts, they probably took up the chunk of the the time there for any of these other bands like Mortal Sin to make a goal of it, and they did, and I know they had some kind of success, but I just think that probably has a lot to do with it, because I didn't get vinyl here, or CDs or cassettes, because I would have definitely bought that band if I'd seen it like in Toronto. For sure I would have bought an album, but
Yeah.
no, I just think it's probably distribution is the main reason,
Yeah.
I would think.
Anything you'd add there,
Yeah,
Jim?
I think also, visibility in Europe, the European market for metal is kind of, you got the American market is so big. I mean, there's no doubt about it, the North American, but mostly the American market is so big. But to hit it in Europe, you take bands, Canadian bands like Voivod, huge in Europe, huge. Like you talk to a lot of black metal bands that are going strong today. They talk about Voivod, they talk about stuff like Venom and that, but
Yeah,
they talk about always bringing up Voivod and that, which really is really cool. But like band like Annihilator is huge in the UK,
yeah, yeah,
and
Detroit.
it really, really, they really, really they embrace it there. And I think that you know obviously they're a little bit isolated in Australia. I mean that's a big thing. It's hard to get a tour going. To get an American tour, they would have to be on something. I mean, if they were on a tour like playing, if Metallica goes there, would have been great for them to maybe take a few of these bands if they were still going strong today to kind of do say they were doing 2 nights in Melbourne, 2 nights in Sydney or whatever, because they do all that just like Iron Maiden just came off of. It'd be cool if they take somebody like that with them to do it and kind of give them, access to hundreds of thousands of people, but it's just not happening. And I think back then, this album came out in '89. The music scene was kind of changing a little bit, even though '90s was a big thrash year and a big death metal year. But then as it went on from there, we know how it went. But just the isolation part of it, not being on a huge label. And then, like you were saying, Billy, early on in the podcast, that they had a lot of issues with stuff like management and stuff like that. So tooling that in there, we all know what happened with Anvil originally. I mean, here they were considered one of the up and coming, could have been maybe a big four, who knows, or a big five at the time, and then it just kind of fell apart a bit. Then they regained it, obviously, after their movie and that. But yeah, definitely just distribution, like Ken said, and the fact that they're a little bit isolated. And I think the scene there, although there's a lot of great thrash music and a lot of great metal music coming out of Australia, it's kind of sad. We need, but when I'm doing my research on some of the bands that I'd heard about and stuff, I didn't realize they had broken up or they just were defunct or taking a break or whatever. And it kind of sucks that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys hit it, right? I think isolation is a big thing, right? I mean, it's hard for them to travel. It's expensive
Yeah.
to travel, right? Like, I mean, Canadian bands were next door to the U.S.
Yeah.
And so you could get into the U.S. and get heard, right? So yeah, I agree the distribution, but the labels can't hear the bands, right? Because they can't get out of Australia.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you guys kind of hit it. I think that's it. Like Australia is like a massive country, is a pretty big country, but they have far fewer people than Canada. So I think it's just, I know they have a good scene, but it's probably even hard for the bands to keep going in a local scene, just having to travel so much in Australia. And
Yeah, it's
only
true.
like 25 million people, I think, in
Yeah.
Australia. So there's not the metal fan base is kind of limited as well. So whereas in Canada, we have like even more people. But like I remember Jeff Waters saying of Annihilator, it made no sense to play in Canada,
Yeah.
to tour in Canada, because there's too much travel across the country and not enough people to to come to the show. So, they probably have some of that too. And, and Jim, you're right. Like, Mortal Sin really broke in the peak of the thrash movement. So that didn't help that we were coming off of thrash metal either. So,
But you
yeah.
know what? Like, you take a Canadian band like Unleash the Archers that's coming off of a huge release this year, but they got a lot of good stuff happening in the US. And they played, I know, they get on some European tours. They're
Yeah.
just going to rip it up because
Yeah.
I could see the European market really loving that band,
Yeah.
and I think they're on the kind of the start of. I mean, they've had a number of albums out, but this album was really, really good and ranked high on a lot of people's. I liked it. It should have been at least an honorable mention for me. I have it. I think it's a great album. I think on my iTunes, I think in October it was my most played album.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
got to see them in Germany
Oh, nice.
this year, and the crowd was massive, right? I couldn't believe how many fans they drew.
Yeah,
But I think, it kind of gets back to what Ken was saying. They have good distribution.
true.
Most Canadian bands are on European labels,
Yeah.
or North or American labels with distribution in Europe, so they get the tours, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So then going back to the fact that they did sort of get some international success, Mortal Sin, those albums, were well received. What about the music do you think that allowed them to break through? What was distinct about Mortal Sin? Jim, we'll go back to you.
Oh, I love it. It's got a really good bass, thrash. Even for me, like there's parts of like I've written in my notes, there's some songs that sound more like an Exodus vibe, a lot of Anthrax vibe, some old school Metallica, and even some Slayer. Really cool. But I love the fact that the drums that I find are really, really good. The bass lines in a lot of the songs kick ass. And I think the vocals are really good.
Yeah.
Total clean vocals. And I know like thrash vocals are technically usually obviously way more cleaner than death metal vocals. And that's fine. And then you can have the thrash death mix as well, which I really like. Because you guys know I'm a huge fan of both genres. But I like this. It's just so crisp and clean that I think this album and the first the two albums should have been on everybody's playlist back then because I think they're that good of albums. And I just think, even myself, like I had to pick this up by chance. And, if I wasn't there that day, I probably would have never really heard of them until, like Ken was saying, many years later when I'm scouring YouTube and I'm looking at all these sites and figuring things out that way, because I live in a more smaller city than you guys did growing up. The funny thing is those heavy metal magazines, a lot of the new releases, they never came to town. So unless I ordered them, and they were a lot more expensive back then, and you had to wait like 6 to 10 weeks. So, but that's what I think. I just think it's really I got to be honest with you, going back and revisiting this, and I'm so glad, Billy, you brought this album and this band up because it's kind of refreshing in a way. I think it's got a really good sound. I mean, I'm listening to it on my phone, so obviously I'm streaming it. So it would be probably the remastered version of the second and first album. But still, I just think it's so fresh and so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I find it same. I haven't listened to these albums in years, but yeah, like I think they really like stand the test of time.
Yeah,
right? Like they sound equally fresh to me as they did back in the day. So
and you could put this on now and say, and you could fool somebody by saying, "Hey, listen to this brand new," because nobody can tell it's dated. I mean, the production on it's great. And the sound is phenomenal. I think it's kind of refreshing in a way to go back. It's like a palate cleanser. You go back and you listen to this and you're like, yeah, good thrash metal. I love it.
Yeah. No, good points. Ken, anything to add?
Yeah, the biggest thing that you guys both did mention is the fact that Kerrang magazine back in the day did anoint this band as the next Metallica. So they got a lot of backing from the underground metal magazine scene. And of course, that's hard to live up to. It's like you could never live up to that kind of anointment, but they did. So that probably helped. I think that probably helped them a lot too. And yeah, you're right, Jim. You mentioned it because they do have elements of like the Bay Area sound.
Oh yeah.
I hear elements of Testament in some of the songs. I hear a little bit of Testament, hear a little bit of Slayer. I hear a little bit of Metallica. I don't really compare them to Metallica as much. I get more of a Testament Slayer vibe from this album, or even
I
in the previous album.
Yeah, I got a couple of songs. Well, one song that he's got kind of a head field. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
There's
the
no
vocals.
guitar
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's no drum. I don't find any of the riffs or anything.
No,
And we'll get into that when we talk about
I
the
think it's the
album.
vocals. Yeah, you're right. The
Yeah,
vocals could kind of, you could put that him alongside James in some
yeah.
ways. I would agree with that. But I hear lots of Testament and Slayer out of
Oh
this.
yeah.
That's what I was hearing. Like, oh, which is a great thing. You're right, Billy. Like going back and hearing it again, yeah, it's great. It's still fresh to this
Yeah.
day. And it's
Yeah.
funny because the album that I have on my iPod that I always have on is Psychology of Death.
That's a great. Yeah.
I love that album. I'm going like, why can't they go back to that or bring? Because I know that album kind of sort of ties into the first two. So why couldn't they just continue on that pattern and continue making music? It's just, I mean, if Zentrix can do it, why can't they
That's a
do it?
good point.
Because I kind of compare them. I really feel that the Zentrix is a very more comparable band to
Yep.
Morrison. I think I could see the comparison. So I just surprised that they can't come back, reform, and play. It's too
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I guess never say never.
True.
Atrophy just came back, so I mean,
True.
possible. Nasty Savage, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
so maybe. And yeah, we'll get back to the shortly the individual albums
Yeah.
because I completely lost track of this band
Same
after
here.
Piece of Despair. So the next three albums, the first time I heard them was this weekend. So
Oh,
I had
wow.
some interesting thoughts. But
Really?
I'm curious to hear you guys, but let's get there in a sec.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, jumping to the album artwork. Ken, will go to you. Let's start with Face of Despair. Thoughts on the artwork?
I don't like the artwork at
You
all.
don't?
No, I don't.
Wow, why not?
I love it.
Uh, it's very kind of cartoony comic style.
Mm,
I don't know. It didn't appeal to me. I prefer the first album cover art, and there's a better story with the first album. I know we just kind of briefly touched upon it. I know the original cover before the Simon Bisley one was by Oscar Kilo, who actually did that cover for the demo, which they did for the first album. And then apparently when they did the international release, they upped the ante and decided to go to Simon Bisley. And Simon Bisley's like a really good UK artist who worked at DC Comics and is known for working on Lobo, the character Lobo.
Oh yeah.
Simon Bisley is also a drummer himself. He was in many metal bands as well. So that's why I love that second album cover. That Face of Despair, it's all right. Like Matt Maurer apparently is credited for the concept, and it was designed by Dwayne Labby or Labby, if you want to, how you ever pronounce his name. It's all right. Like I don't mind it, but I don't know. I guess because it's overshadowed by that Simon Bisley reissue cover, which I just love to death. And then you look at this cover and it's like, it's okay, but I don't know. I just for some reason I
wow.
can't get that first cover out of my head. And I even like the Oscar Kilo demo over the first. I like both those covers. They're great, but this one, it's kind of okay. But it never really resonated me as much as the first album did.
Yeah, no, I always liked it. I mean,
Same here.
like I always like what's going on, right? Like with
Yeah.
because it's kind of like a horror movie, but not
Kinda.
like more about the suspense as opposed to the violence, right? Like what's going on with the shadows and what's
Knife with the
happening and
gun.
Do you know
I
what it
don't know.
reminds me of?
Huh?
As soon as I always think of this cover and
Can,
Exciter.
can I tell you
Violence,
before
and
you
Force.
say it?
What?
Are you going to say Annihilator, Alice in Hell?
No, I wasn't going to say that.
That's what I think of.
Oh,
that's what I think of too.
Exciter. Violence and Force with that.
Oh yeah,
Kind of holding
yeah.
back the door, even though that's a little bit more graphic. I love that album cover.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
kind of is more of a cartoony version with the knife and the
Huh.
gun, and I think it's pretty cool. But yes, I can see where you get Alice in Hell from that too.
Huh. So then, Ken, when you're talking about, so like I know the one, like I don't know how to show it because I don't have the original vinyl,
Yeah,
but like the original Mayhemic Destruction
yeah,
had kind of like obviously it's this demon creature who's
coming out
stepping
the
on
water.
all the Australian landmarks,
Right,
like the
right.
Sydney Opera
Yeah.
House and some of the bridges. But like the original one kind of looks like hand drawn, like not that like it doesn't look. It looks like an amateur artist kind of did it. No, the
Oscar
original.
Kilo. Well, Oscar Kilos actually did a lot of stuff, a lot of bands, but you have to understand it's a demo art. So usually when it comes to
Yeah,
like
maybe.
demos,
Yeah,
it's the art's always going to be a step down. Like it's not going to be like they went out and paid like a professional painter to do
yeah,
it, like
yeah.
what you would have got with
That's
Simon
true.
Bisley, because Simon Bisley is he's a really good artist and well known. Back then he was more doing illustration, but so
That's
I
true.
think that's why. You know what though, Billy? That cover, that original demo cover, though, reminds me of Flotsam and Jetsam. It's
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
similar
yeah,
concept with
But
demon coming
Doomsday?
out of the water. You know what I mean? Doomsday for the
yeah.
Deceiver.
Yeah.
But I could totally see that as a demo, like
Yeah,
cassette being passed around, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that makes
And,
sense.
and
But what's
Doomsday
this
looked like it
one?
was hand drawn.
Yeah,
This is not like it's dark. So, but
Yeah.
what's this cover then? This is like the reissue. Is this one that you were talking about,
yeah.
Ken?
This is the reissue by Simon Bisley that
Yeah,
he
I like
did.
this one better.
Same
Yeah,
with me.
when they were when the international distribution started for this album, they went to that cover.
Okay.
So this is like obviously record label saying no, we're gonna bring in a recognized artist,
Yeah.
and they brought in Simon Bisley, who was
Yeah. Okay.
recognizable
'Cause
at that time.
this doesn't look like a demo. This looks like
No,
polished,
Yeah.
no,
whereas the
no.
yeah.
And Simon Bisley is pretty much like I said, if you know the Lobo character from DC, then
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's him.
Was he
That's
a
his work.
sheriff, the Lobo?
What's that?
Was he a cop or a sheriff?
He was like kind of a
Like a rope?
space. No, he was like a kind of a space pirate.
Oh, okay.
He drank. He had his like his space
Yes.
motorcycle. He looked like a bike. I guess a space biker.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a
Okay.
very popular character in DC's comics, but
The
yeah,
only thing
they
I don't like is the
yeah
logo.
yeah. I don't like it.
Original, it's like on this side and it's
Yeah,
much bigger.
yeah.
And it doesn't have the red, white, and like blue on it, right? It's just
No,
it's like orangey and like silvery, like it's way better than this logo on here.
that's right. That's
That's
right.
the only negative I
But I
thought.
think that's a great cover. I love that
Yeah,
cover.
I
Same with
like it.
me.
And I don't know, on the reissue, it's so dark, like you can barely see it, right? Like they didn't do a good job. Maybe it's just this particular run.
They
Uh,
must have because I've googled it online and looked at it, and it's so much. I've seen like lighter versions of it, so it's probably just a
yeah,
print.
this is so dark. It must be
Yeah. You
a
can't even
poor
see it.
run.
You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I hear you. Okay, so then we talked about the new stuff. So, like I said, it was all new for me, and I didn't even know they had three albums. I fell off my chair when I realized they had three albums, and
Mhm.
something as recent as 2011 or 2010. So I think it's worth talking about them for a couple of minutes because most people are not going to know they even exist, and some of them surprise me. But like Ken, so it sounds like you were a bit more familiar with some of these. What are your thoughts on the three albums?
Well, they're actually not that bad. Psychology of Death is the best of the
Mm.
three,
Yeah,
I think. Absence of Faith is pretty good. It came out in 2007.
Revolutions.
That's pretty good too. Like that's really solid thrash album. The Every Dog Has Its Day came out in 91. So that's sort of I guess a holdover from the earlier period. But yeah, if you go to the last two, Absence of Faith and Psychology of Death, they're both good albums. If you can, like I'll be honest, I found BitTorrents and downloaded the albums and have them on my iPod, but I could never actually find physical copies of them because I would do that in a heartbeat if I could. But they're both really good albums, really good, kind of return to form thrash. So it's got a lot of the earlier sounds of the first two in these ones. But if you can find them, go for it. Psychology of Death is just a wicked album.
yeah, that's the one that impressed me the most. Like I
Same.
Yeah, it's
listened to
wicked.
all three, like cover to cover, or I mean cover to cover, like on my iPhone. But
Yeah.
uh But yeah, I mean, Revolution. I mean, Psychology of Death sounded like a vicious like comeback type
It
album.
Yeah.
was.
It
It
was
was.
very much like the first, like so that should have got some more attention. Obviously, must have been on a poor label or because I think that could have done well that particular album for sure.
But I think they broke up right after that, though. I think that album
Oh,
came
maybe,
out
yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
disbanded again. So I don't know
Yeah.
what happened. I'm not quite sure if it was just money, they couldn't afford it. Who knows? But that album is all I gotta say is that album is amazing.
Yeah, it
I
is good.
know.
I
It
love
was
that.
really good. And then Every Dog Has Its Day. That was I struggled a bit, like because that has a different singer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's got like Steve Sly on it. So he's got a very different vocal
I
approach.
don't like it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it
not a
was
fan of
tough.
it.
Now I will say by the time I got to the last song,
Yeah.
I for some reason he started to click a bit more with me
Okay.
than he did at the beginning. But yeah, he's definitely no Matt. Like I think
No,
and the
no.
music was probably half thrash and half
Yeah.
traditional metal. They really slowed it down in a lot of places
But
on
that's
that.
why I compare it to Zentrix, because Zentrix was the same. Remember, like the
Yeah, yeah,
first was
yeah.
really good. You get to the third, and then all of a sudden they start changing the style.
Yeah,
So
that
they're
would have
very
been what
comparable.
Zentrix
Yeah,
was Kindred, I guess, where
yeah,
they
Kendra. Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
very, very. I. That's why I think they're very much. I don't know. They could be like brothers to me, like
Yeah.
because it's
yeah.
very. They went in a similar direction. At least I thought.
Yeah. And yeah, like and then 97 was like Revolution of the Mind.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that was okay. Like I didn't like it as much as Psychology of Death.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But and it had some of the 90s trends. Like some of that industrial feel in a few places, but
yeah.
it still had a lot of thrash too, right? But I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
What
went back to thrash in the 2000s, so I think
Yeah.
that's why those two albums are really good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything you'd
Oh,
want to, Jim?
the Psychology of Death. I mean, I've put that on my playlist. Blood of My Enemies. It's a wicked song, but the whole
Yeah.
album from start to finish is really strong. I think it's a total return to the album we're going to discuss, kind of updated into the
Mm,
2000s, the 2010s. So, but the other ones, they were okay. Nothing to really write home about. I didn't. It's probably why I might have come across it in my journey, but I maybe just yeah, and that was it. Maybe didn't resonate because they also kind of changed their logo a little bit too.
yeah.
Like, and I don't like. I hate it when bands do that.
Yeah.
It's like McDonald's. You see McDonald's, you see McDonald's. You want McDonald's. Well, I don't want McDonald's, but you know what I mean. You know the logo, and I want the logo to stay the same. Metallica did the same goddamn thing with Load and Reload when they changed it to that. They took the little things off. It pissed me
Yeah,
off.
it's stupid. Yeah,
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 small thing, but just it maybe that especially in the '90s when everything was changing. There was a lot of you felt like as a metalhead you were kind of underground a little bit, like otherwise you're listening to Smash Mouth and all that other garbage.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just looked it up. So Psychology of Death was released on a label called Riot Entertainment based out of Australia.
Well,
Okay.
that's
So yeah, like it's probably going to be pretty difficult to find.
No,
yeah,
so basically no distribution.
Probably the best hope we have would be something like Music on Vinyl, who does all those like rare things and
yeah,
they put them to vinyl in Europe.
Mhm.
Or like Dive Bomb in the US, who do all the obscure metal CDs from around the world.
Right.
So actually, I'm going to check Dive Bomb. I'm curious to see if they've done that. Um, yeah, no, it's cool.
cool.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jim. Anything
Yeah.
else on that?
No, that's I echo exactly what you guys thought. I mean, I love that album, and like you, Billy, I didn't know they had those other albums
Yeah, no
till
idea.
this weekend.
Yeah, a week ago, I had no idea that they had anything after Fates of Despair. So there you go. That's a fun reason of doing the show too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
you learn something
discovering.
new every day, right?
Yeah, and even when we get to our top 10, there were one or two bands that I had knew of and music from the late 80s. And then when I looked them up, like, some of them had like bands, albums in the
Yeah.
last 5 years. They did come back.
Yeah.
So I don't know how good they are, but at least something to check out.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do the album deep dive. Jim, we're going to start with you. And so the first track on the album, I Am Immortal.
Yeah. Wicked. I mean, you're starting off with that bass intro that just leads into that heavy chug. I mean, then you first hear his vocals and you're like, holy shit, this is really, really good stuff. The gang vocals with the chorus, I Am Immortal. I mean, that's wicked. You got that double bass drum in there. I think at around 150, it's got a wicked solo. And what I like about this band and this album, there's like many different solos per song. So I really, really like that. It's almost like there's, I would even call them mini solos because they're fairly long. And this one has a couple of really cool ones in there. I find in this song, he's got more of a head feel sound to his vocals, but not a Metallica sound musically. None of this album sounds at all like Metallica.
Wow.
And it's got a great chug lead out. I love the lead out and you know what? They do this, they either have a cool fade or they tend to have this where they kind of settle things down into a chug right after a second or even third guitar solo where they chug it right out to the end of the song. I really like that. I found that different than a lot of thrash bands of the time. But I think for me, the vocals, I mean, the guitars in that are phenomenal. It's solid, solid thrash. But I think the bass, the drums, and the vocals are what sell it for me.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, this is a really good song to start the album. I mean, obviously there's a Slayer vibe to me towards the end where I picked that up. There's like tons of catchy riffs for me. Yeah, the bass at the start is great. It's it's very immediate. You get that right off the bat. The chug is great, and there's a lot of really nice, decent tempo changes throughout the song. And then when they kind of pepper in the you get the chorus, which is good, and then they pepper in the gang shows. I really it just makes the song pop for me. I don't know. The first tempo change is really good around the 2 minute mark, and then it just picks up. It picks up some great steam. It's a really, really good song. I also like it because the song's sort of about the idea of being resilient when facing death, and in doing so you kind of ensure your immortality. Kind of a weird contradiction, but I thought that was kind of interesting in the lyrics. But otherwise, as an opening song, yeah, they start off good with this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like if it was a band that was still touring, I could see this being in the encore, I guess.
Yeah,
the opener, but like it's a total thrash anthem. It's easy to sing along to. I mean, I think you guys hit everything on here. I mean, for me, I don't get like I love Matt's vocals. I don't get comparisons with others. I think he's kind of unique.
I think he is too.
The like Ken, when you talked about you get the Slayer vibes, yeah. So like past the 3 minute mark, like the song really picks up. But one of the things I like about Matt is like he really like picks up the vocal pace, right? Like he's spewing like lyrics like really quickly. Like he's able to do that and really emphasize like certain words. Like he does it more than the average thrash singer. I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, like on this whole album, they're really good at writing choruses.
Yeah.
And the gang vocals are in multiple songs, but it really works here. Like I think they do it well. The songwriting's good, good use of tempo changes, the guitar, so and it sounds great. Like everything's good in the mix. So yeah, I think it's a great opening track too. So Ken, that brings us to track number 2, Voyage of the Disturbed.
Yeah, I like this as well. It's got some good catchy melody to it. Good chug. The chug is really domineering at the start, and then at 105 you get this really quick tempo, and then I love it. They throw in that sing along chorus. Wow, it just grabs you. For
Voyage of the Disturbed.
Yeah. It works here, right? This is another song I could see if they play this live, people would probably get into this song.
Oh yeah,
personally,
totally.
I could see that. And it's great because the whole lyrical like the whole idea of the lyrics is that they're criticizing the political climate and societal pressures of the time.
Excuse me.
So I guess it's kind of timely during the time when they wrote it. But yeah, this is a really good song too. I like it as a worthy follow up. Yeah, number 1, number 2.
Yeah,
good. Totally good.
Yeah. No. What about you, Jim?
Oh, love this song. I love the fact that at 116 the vocals cut in, so you got like a minute and a half, almost a minute and a
Yeah.
quarter of like just killer bass groove and guitars, heavy guitar intro. And for me, this song, and I'm always comparing, so this song has more of an Exodus groove to it for me. I don't know what it is, but I love the fact that like 250, you've got this really cool guitar solo, but then at 327, almost 330, it kind of silhouettes out of that and then goes back into a guitar solo
Yeah.
right towards the end of the song. But I mean, I love that, the great chorus, Voyage of the Disturbed. And this song, the first song, this song, the next song, those gang vocals and those choruses, and can you hit it on the head? Many of these songs have really good melodies to them, which, and I think that's why it's kind of got a fresh sound to me, even though it's definitely, it's from 1989. But I think that, I think a lot of bands nowadays are just trying to be heavy for the sake of being heavy. But like, this is heavy. And it's got some songs have some great melodies, some great choruses, and I love the gang shouts. And I think like Anthrax, if they used a lot more of the gang shouts like this with Joey's voice, I think it would really, really up their game a bit, I think, because this kind of, there's some songs on there that remind me of a bit Anthraxy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here. I have like probably 6 notes, and you guys have hit everything, including the minutes and the whole work. So, nothing I'm going to add. I completely agree with you guys on that one. So, Jim, we'll go over to you. Track number 3, the Infantry Corps.
Oh, this is a great song too. There's not. First of all, there may be only one song. We'll get to that down the line. That is a little different. But for me, this song is cool. I like the drum and guitar intro, how it plays off each other. So you've had a bass, then you've had some heavy guitars. Now you kind of focus a little bit on the drums. It's really cool. It's almost like a 1-2-3 punch. I find it's got a darker chug to it because of that heavy bass sound. And I love bass in thrash metal. I love it. And I can never get enough of it. And I like it when they sort of put it a little bit, at least equally with, if that makes sense. I mean, I love ripping guitars too, and I love heavy drums. I love everything about thrash metal. That's why I like it. But I just, and even the clean, this has an Anthraxy chug, as I was saying. This song reminds me more of an Anthrax song, but those gang vocals for Who's Responsible, and then they kind of play off with the gang vocals. I really, really like that. This is a great song, and it's a darker song, so it shows them kind of keeping the thrash line going, but maybe changing it up a little bit. And I like that. It's a good change.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Everything about the first 2 songs comes forward here again.
Yeah.
But I think you talked about like at 3:10, when it really gets in the gang shouts to kind of close out the song. I actually get like a DRI thrash zone feel to the songs in a way. It kind of has that feel with the way they do some of their.
Billy, I have that written for song 4. I've got a DRI groove. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think song 4 I might have. I have something 1 or 2 similar things for song 4, but and again the chorus is so damn good, right? Like, why did they succeed and break out of internationally? Just the songs are damn good, right? Like the production is good, the songs are good, the musicianship is good. It's just a damn good album.
Not enough people heard this. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah. No, exactly. Ken, anything to that?
Yeah, the Testament vibe is where I was pointing out here, because it's the way the chorus is like set up to the pacing of it. It just reminds me of Chuck Billy.
Like practice.
I get that. Oh, this is like a very kind of typical way that Testament would deliver some of their choruses.
I get that.
I like it. I picked that up right away. It was the first thing I picked up. I was, oh, that's kind of cool. And then you guys are right. Like when you get to like 3 minutes and you get that heavy chug and the gang shows, it all just like comes together with that tempo. It's so great. Yeah. And then, they keep repeating the whole idea of the infantry, and the whole song is about the idea of young people going to war and then and then the song criticizes the idea of a military sacrifice as a sacrificial service.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of interesting. So it's like you're sending people to war to die, kind of thing. But I like it. It's a good song. Yeah, it's got some good chugs, good tempo changes, super fast. Yeah, it's very catchy as well.
Yeah,
I
I
like
know, yeah.
it.
Yeah, so 3 for 3. We're all big fans of
Yeah,
the first three. And so that moves us, Ken, into the fourth track for richer,
Oh,
for poorer. So this one changes it up a little bit, the
yeah,
style of the last three. But what are your thoughts here?
yeah. This is pretty good. It's got a bit of a punk vibe to it. I can
yeah.
see what you guys were saying about DRI. Yeah, I can kind of get that because he's singing like for richer, for poor. The whole song it's typical kind of. It's the kind of song that I could think that DRI would write. I could very much see this being a song that they would write. My only one little criticism of the song is that I find the vocals a little whiny a little bit at times. It's okay. I just find it a little on the whiny side. But the song criticizes the idea of inequality and the manipulation of society and how people who have power and how they manipulate others. I like it. It's got a very kind of punk attitude
Yeah.
all the way through. And the chorus is great. I love the whole kind of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's
That's
so
my
great.
favorite line.
Yeah, yeah, mine too. Mine too. I like it for that reason. But yeah, this is a good song for what they were trying to achieve here. Short, but good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. Like it, and it mixes it up, right? Like this is and not the fastest track, but definitely the heaviest track
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, yeah.
far on the album. Like much thicker riffs. The drumming really dominates this one. And I agree, Ken, the vocals are a little different.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no doubt, like he's singing differently here. I'm kind of, yeah, I don't think I prefer his way in the first three
Yeah, yeah.
songs, but I don't know. I also with this track, and I don't know why, but I get a vibe of like Death Angel circa Frolic
Yep.
Through the Park on this
Yep.
track.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
That's the one thing that kept popping into my head, but yeah, it's good. Like I like it because they mix it up, right? There's a couple tracks on here on the album where they shift things a little bit, so I think that's good. It keeps the album fresh.
Yeah.
Jim, what are your
Oh,
thoughts?
I like the vocals. I think the vocals are kind of evil sounding, more so on this one. Maybe it's the more higher vocal, but yeah, I mean, this has definitely got a DRI crossover sound for me. It reminds me of kind of suit and tie guy.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's a heavy song with a serious chug to it, and I love it when the song starts. It kind of starts off with a heavy drum intro, serious chug, and then it speeds up as the guitars start to get faster. And that guitar solo at 220 is amazing, and I love that line. I had written that down: "Rich get richer, poor get poorer." A great,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
song. I think it's 4 for 4 for me on this.
Yeah. No, it's good. And the chorus is very clean too,
Yeah,
right? Like that when
Yeah.
they shout that it almost doesn't sound like a thrash band at
yeah.
all. But it's cool. It gives some good variety. Okay, so Jim, sticking over in your side
Oh,
here, Martyrs of Eternity, track
Five
number
for five. This is another
Mhm.
one. Martyrs of Eternity. You got the cymbals cracking into that ominous guitar intro. These guys really know how to do intros into songs. I love it. I mean, they get it started up, and it's almost every song starts up differently. I mean, usually by song 5 on even some of my favorite thrash albums, they're starting to repeat a little bit. But I mean, this is a great drum track. At 105, you've got the heavy guitars that cut in. I think at 120, the vocals cut in. It's got a cool. This is a really got a lot of harmonies with it. And I think it's the bass that makes this so heavy. At 240, the song just takes up. And I love the gang vocals in this song too. I mean, the whole song is just it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Ken, over to you.
Yeah, this one they tried. There's a bit of an experimentation with it because, yeah, okay, like what Jim was saying, you get the slow melodic opening, and then then it kicks in the first minute. Then you get the heavy chugs. They start. But what I find funny about the song though is not funny in a bad way, but funny in a good way. That the tempo change, you get the fast chug at like 236, and then all of a sudden at 334, it stops, goes into like this doomy passage, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. And then the song shifts into more like not a chug, but some really nice classy sounding guitars.
Yep.
That solo
Yeah.
for the last half, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. So they purposely like changed it up, and I like the fact that they did that on this song. So it makes it a pretty unique song, and you're not just like being a copycat for songs 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So then you get 4 and 5, where they tend to, oh, we're gonna just do something a little bit different just to throw it up, which is good, because the one thing I hate about thrash albums is when it gets so samey, you start to get
Yeah.
bored.
Yeah.
Track 6, track 7, and you're just bored to death. These two songs are good because they switched it up, and I like the way that they switched it up.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was saying on the last one, right? There's a couple of these tracks that really add some nice diversity and kind of
Yeah.
keep it fresh. And yeah, I agree with you on the ending, right? With the tempo change toward the end, it's quite interesting. And yeah, I also think this is like probably Matt's most diverse singing. He's kind of all over the map here in his singing. But yeah, I think it's really good. He's got some good melodic singing in here. But yeah, I like it. The funny thing is, whenever I read a review of the album,
Mhm.
there is a song on this album I absolutely can't stand, but
Same here.
I'm sure I know which one that is,
Well, I
Jim.
think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, but
Ah,
like many people trash this song in the reviews, which I find
really?
strange.
Why?
I don't get
It's a good
that. Like,
song.
yeah, like I enjoy it. I enjoy it quite a bit for sure.
Okay. All right. I think it's a good song.
Yeah, no, agree. And it really sets up
Oh
it
yeah.
goes for the next
Yep.
track to
Looking
go
forward to
back to what we started with. So okay, so then did I got both of you guys on that
Yep.
song,
Yeah,
right?
you did.
Yeah.
You did,
So
sir.
Ken, Innocent Torture, track number 6.
Yeah, I like it. This song is good too,
Yeah.
because it throws you for a loop. As all of a sudden you're starting out, like you get the overdub of the courtroom drama, and he's like, "You're going to prison for 20 years," and I love it for a crime that he didn't commit, or at least he says he didn't commit. And then it's great. I think that's nice, because I think I'm not used to hearing that in a opening a thrash album or a song. And
Yeah.
then he shows that he goes, Rory, he starts shouting, no, after he's being sentenced. And then the chugging starts, and it's so great. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, here we go. Here's a real fast thrash chug.
Yeah.
And then that chorus, when the chorus kicks in, I'll prove my innocence. I did not kill. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so great. Yeah, this is a really good song. There's some nice lead work here, I find, on this one as well for me. So yeah, this is a standout song,
Yeah,
I
I
think.
know it's one of my favorites.
It's
And
my
Yeah.
favorite.
yeah, like I love that opening, right?
Yeah.
And then like right after the guilty verdict, the song just
Yeah.
rips, right? Like right,
Yeah.
like that's a perfect opening, right? Like it
Yeah.
works so
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the thrash, like, Matt is like, he's just singing like a million miles an hour. It's really cool. And yeah, I think this might, you said it again, but might have some of the best lead work. Uh,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah.
right, there's a great section where they're just shredding all over it. Like at 3:25, Matt just gets like his vocals are probably the most evil sounding on the album, but and then it ends with like a big, like, kind of feels like a little mini drum solo.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just a perfect song, beginning to end. And I don't know, maybe I'll say it now because it relates to this song. But I personally think this should have been the last song on the album. But
Yeah, yeah, I can see your point.
we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
get to that when we get to the last song.
yeah.
Uh, Jim?
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, this and the next song, my two favorites. But this song, I love it how they started. It's gripping. This song grabs a hold of you because there's a dramatic entrance to it with the court sentencing. I love it. And but I mean that bass line, like I keep going on about this, but at 155 it like shuts down, and then there's that little bass. It's really really cool, and it's everything you guys said. All my notes just review what you guys have said. I mean, a wicked song. This or the next song could have been the last song for me too.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think this might be the most catchy chorus, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah. I
earworm
think it is
chorus
too.
of I mean, they're really good at doing that,
yeah,
but this just might be the best one.
And you know what, Billy? This song puts the Megadeth song from Countdown to Shame. Remember, because it starts out where he's in the courtroom,
Oh yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're guilty, and he's like, I think that's a cheesy opening. This actually
Yeah, no, it
Oh,
totally
the
works.
opening to this was really fun. I
yeah,
liked
it
it.
works. It
Yeah.
doesn't work in that Megadeth song. It's
No,
kind of
no.
stupid, but it really works here.
Yeah, this is a case where it's really value add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Totally.
so Jim, you already hinted at the
Yeah. This
next track, so over to you. Suspended animation.
parts of this song sound like it could have been on Rain and Blood.
Yep.
You know, I what a cool guitar intro. Again, those it's got that Slayer and guitar vibe that play
Yep.
off each other. Could be Hella Waits, Rain and Blood, whatever. Uh at 222, the song slows down to a kind of a chug that leads into a solo and then speeds back up again. I mean, I love the way they do that. It's like they take you on a really cool journey. This could have been the last song for me, or number 6. It's that good. I absolutely love it. You know, again, you know, we're on song 7 here, and the album's picking up momentum for me. I'm really excited to hear like, oh, where's this going? This is how can it get any better? Because I mean, I absolutely love this song. I think it's like my 1B. Number 6 would be my 1A.
Yeah. No, no, it's a great one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I like the different pacing but like you talked about the guitar solo,
Oh,
like it's that one at 240, right?
yeah.
That just leads into that fast thrash riffing that comes in, but then it goes back into the
Yeah.
solos again, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just this great musical section. And then at 338, the gang vocals get like in heavy use, and that's great too. But yeah, it's like super aggressive on all fronts. It's a great track.
Yeah.
Ken, what would you add?
Well, it's interesting that the Slayer vibes are what Jim had mentioned because the song pretty much is about the feelings of being trapped in a tomb of ice and then having this agony of being trapped there. So, which is kind of a song I could see Slayer writing. So
Mm-hmm.
I get that. The guitar work is really nice. There's a lot of
Yeah.
really good guitar work here on this song. I would agree, Jim. It's like the two best songs are really like Innocent Torture and
Yeah.
Suspended Animation. They're both like really 1A to me
Yeah.
when you think about it because it's really good. And his
One,
vocals
two,
get a
and
little bit.
three are up there too.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I know, but I'm
yeah.
just saying, like when you
No, I
get to
got
this
you.
section, like these two songs, just like
Yeah,
they piggyback and they sound so damn good. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a good song. But yeah, you're not getting a lot of bad songs on this album.
yeah. No, exactly. So then, Ken, that leads into H.
H.
And I don't
H.
know, you're good with lyrics, so I have no clue what H is supposed to mean.
Oh, it's
Is
H
there
for
something in the lyrics to explain
yeah,
that?
it's H for Hiroshima. So it's all about the aftermath of the Hiroshima bombing.
Okay. I
So
mean,
it's kind of
given,
what's
oh,
that?
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite song on the album. It's
Same.
it's a basic song
Yeah.
with a heavy chug and tempo, which is fine. And they don't add anything to it. They just stick to that very basic formula. I don't mind the song. It's not bad, but I don't have a lot to say about it because I don't think there's much going on here, to be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would
Same.
say. Ken. Like it's an aggressive song, it's a
Yeah,
thrash song, but it's more straightforward, right? Like there's no
yeah.
tempo changes, but it does have like really good like guitar leads that actually
Yeah.
close out the song. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
best part, I think.
I would agree with that.
Jim?
Yeah. Same with you guys. I would have rather the song been like right before number 5. Just you know, it's kind of it's really good. I love like those guitar leads that end off the song are amazing. That's one of the things I like is they change up besides their intros, they kind of change up their endings as well, and that's definitely it's a good song. It would be in my
Yeah,
back half of the album only
Yeah.
because there has to be a back half. I mean, not everything can be number 1, so but it's still a good song. It's a good thrash song. I think it's just it's a lot more basic than what we've been going through.
yeah.
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 No, exactly. Yeah, we all agree, pretty much exactly. Okay, so Jim, that leads to track number 9, Terminal Reward.
I would have been happy with them ending on this song because this song's like
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
pretty good. I mean, I would have
Yeah.
given them more marks than I'm going to with song 10. But like this song's pretty good. It's a total thrash heavy song with those heavy vocals. At 203, you've got that wicked guitar solo at 3:05. The song almost goes off, sounding like they're ending it, but you still have quite a bit of time left where it kind of brings back up to a more of a chug. I think it's really cool how they do that. When I hadn't listened to this in a long time, and listening to it, I was like, that was a quick one. But it because a lot of these songs are 4.5, 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
They're a little bit on the longer side. But I think it's a great song. I think they should have ended it here. Not to give away my number 10 rating, but like I think that would have been good. But I think number 6 or number 7 as the ending would have been a lot better. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, what strikes me, this is probably the closest thing we get to an instrumental, and I
yeah,
don't say that because like Matt stopped singing at like 110, and he doesn't come back again till 3:35. So you
yeah,
basically get well over 2 minutes of this like brilliant instrumental section,
yeah,
right? Like the soaring, like solos, the rhythm, like the drums and the bass are all over the place. It's like, musically, it's a great song. And then of course Matt comes back, but yeah, it just I like it most for this big like at least half the song is like an instrumental run that I love. Ken.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because the lyrics on the song are about a person on the verge of dying, and they're reflecting on their life as they're slowly fading away. So I think like I kind of looked at the last half song where it kind of fades out a little bit there.
yeah,
This is kind of I don't know, it's kind of a nod to that, but the song is good overall. There's a lot of really meaty and heavy riffs here that really work for me. But yeah, it's a good song. I don't have a problem with the song either.
Yep. Okay, so I think Jim and I have let our opinion be
Yeah,
known, but so Ken, you're up next.
great.
Timing works.
I
I don't
get
know
to
where
be the
you're
one
gonna
to
go, but
deliver a bad news. No, the song sucks, dude.
track number 10, Robbie
I
Souls,
Robbie
two
Soul.
and a half minutes.
It doesn't. It's stupid because it's.
Good.
I looked this up because I was like, what is this about?
yeah.
And
What is it?
so basically, it's they create this character, a fictional character. His name is Robbie Souls, and he's struggling with drug addiction. So I'm like, okay. And it's so bizarre because it goes off in this course about our souls this, our souls that. I'm like, what? I don't. It's almost like to me they ran out of ideas for a song, and they had maybe part of a song and said, let's just do this, and we'll just have this chorus that goes, our souls is the president of America. Our, like I don't get it. I don't get the song at all. I personally, they could leave that off. It could be 9 songs for me. I'd
Yeah,
even go with Terminal Reward as the last song. I
yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
I'd take that as the last song and you leave number 10. So
Yeah.
I don't get number 10 at all.
And no, me neither. Like I hate it. I think it sounds silly. Like the joking way it ends is stupid. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't fit in with the other 9 songs
no.
yeah,
in any way, shape, or form. And if excuse me, if you back this out, the album's still like 40 and a half minutes, which
yeah,
Yeah,
many bands
yeah,
and
yeah.
in this
It's a good
time
length.
ended at 40 minutes. So I don't get it.
Beats
It's a
me.
total loss to me. Like the album's like perfect,
hmm
and then they go and end it with like
it's
A
crap.
complete. Like,
stinker.
I don't get it.
Yes, a
I'm trying
stinker.
to be polite.
Well, I'm not going to be polite because I think it stinks.
Jim,
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought maybe this was some sort of maybe a thing in Australia that I'm just not getting.
yeah, that's what I thought.
But I couldn't find it. So, and then it's a clever way, I guess, of saying arseholes, our
Yeah,
souls
our
are
souls.
everywhere. But
Our souls.
I
Yeah.
thought it was just kind of like teenagers sitting around, like, let's. I hate to say it, but I would have rathered even a cover.
It's not clever, dude. It's not a clever song at all.
No, it's not. But if they did a cover of something they liked or something, at least end with some of those really cool bass lines and guitar leads would have been cool. But yeah, this detracts from the album for me. It's just like I listened to it once and I was like, what the hell? And then I just
Like the album is so good, and
yeah,
then to end it this way, it's almost like they're doing themselves a disservice. I don't get
yeah,
it.
Yep,
But
you're
I
right.
don't know. I'm
yeah.
not going to harp on it anymore because the rest is so good. I don't
Oh
want to
yeah,
have this 1 2 minute mess taint the album. But
yeah. And then I thought originally, because I was streaming it, thinking, is this a bonus track that maybe they added on?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. No,
No,
I wikied it to make sure that it was the last song.
like why is this here?
Yeah.
Stupid.
Oh well.
Yep.
So yeah, great album. I mean, I think you guys would join me to say people
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
check this out. I mean, luckily with the reissues, you can find the first album, you can find the second album. So yeah, hopefully this will encourage folks to give this great album a spin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great pick. It really kind of brought back. I remember. I can't wait to find my cassette. I'll be posting it as soon as I find it.
Nice.
This popped into my head when I flipped you guys the note to say let's do this. It's because I finally got the vinyl reissue.
Ah, cool.
So it had it in my head to do it. But just I was looking here. So Psychology of Death was only released digitally, apparently.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I don't even know if you'll ever find, unless someone picks it up and does the reissues.
yeah. It wasn't available that I could see.
Yeah.
That I found like a BitTorrent of it and just downloaded it. So somebody somewhere had uploaded it to a site to download illegally, of course,
But it's on iTunes. Like I found it
Yeah.
on like iTunes. I was able to download it and have it on my.
well, I was saying like before iTunes, like way back
yeah.
in the old days. Yeah.
way back, like when I first discovered the album,
Yeah.
which would have been probably around, I don't know, 2014, 2015 by that point. So that was before iTunes started and stuff. Well, Spotify, I should say, before it started. So that's how I found it. That's where I found it originally. But I actually looked. So you're right, Jimmy, Billy, about the just the digital release, because I looked and I could never find it.
Yeah. No,
Amazon has it available digitally.
Yeah. That's too bad. That's really too bad.
Well, at least it's digital, right? So you can. I mean, it sounded good too, right? Like I was listening to it. It sounds great. Like it's
Production
not like
sounded great.
Awesome
some money was spent in producing that thing.
Yeah, it's basically just like an update of their classic sound. So it's like, you get thrash. It's all great thrash. There's not a bad song on that album.
Yeah,
at all on it.
So great. Okay, so any last words, gentlemen, before we move to our top tens?
No, just go look them out, search them out. I'd say go find them. They're worth the time to check out.
Yep.
You want some good thrash metal? Check these guys out, especially the first two albums and their last digital album.
Yeah, all good.
Cool. So then top 10. So we have our Australian thrash bands, but I mean, we're not going to punish anyone if you have a non-thrash band on the list too. I have one only because I really like this band and I wanted to call them out.
I have two.
Okay, so that's cool. So who wants to start? Ken, do you want to go first?
Yeah,
I know you like to go first.
Sure.
Okay.
So number 10, I have Chromach, which they're still around. They have 7 albums to date, which I was surprised. I've heard of them before.
How do you spell that, Ken? I don't know that band.
Cromok.
Oh, with a D. I thought you said C. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, it's C. I said Crow.
Okay.
So Cromok. Chromach.
Oh, okay. I don't know them.
Yeah, they have 7 albums. They're actually still an existing thrash band. They've been around since '87. Their last album did come out in 2004 called Untitled. So they're still active in the scene, but they haven't put out any new material. Pretty good stuff. I like the logo. The logo really caught my attention. So I started listening to them and I'm like, this is actually pretty good thrash. Pretty solid stuff. So yeah, if you want to find them, you can look them up because I know they have 7 albums to date.
Okay.
And then number 9 is a band that I do like quite a bit. It's Destroyer 666.
I've seen those. I've
Black Thrash. I have a bunch of their albums. I've always liked their stuff. They're on Seasons of Mist, so you know that they're getting good distribution. Like people know all of them and know their stuff. I really like Cold Steel for an Iron Age, which came out in 2002. That's a really, really good album. And the vocalist, he goes by the name of KK War Slut. So great. Nice. And they pretty much were it's thrash, but I would say it's more black metal because they have the outfits. They dress in like black metal gear. it's definitely the kind of stuff that I think Kim and Jason would probably like because it leans heavily onto that side, but it's good stuff. I like them. I really dig them. And at number 7, I have Berserker, and I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
that
you're a
they're good.
I
fan.
got that.
Yeah, I figured you would because it's like progressive thrash. Only one album though. This is the
I know,
shitty.
Yeah.
but it's good.
Great. Oh, it's a great album. I was listening to them like, holy shit, this is great. The drumming is fantastic. The drumming reminds me of Charlie Benante a little bit, and then the vocals. He's got this kind of Eric AK sort of flair to his style of singing. I think it's great. Great production, good technical guitars. Man, like one album. I don't know what happened there, but that's
Yeah.
a real bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only thing I'd say, and so I won't cover it when I do mine because you already did it, but like from vocals, like I almost get like yeah, AK's a good comparison, but I
Yeah.
almost get like a tamer Russ Anderson even.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I
But
never
yeah,
thought of
no,
that.
great album.
Yeah, yeah, I think
1990.
it's great. It's just too
Yeah.
bad, like one album.
Yeah.
And I was looking them up to see if I could find what happened, but no, I can't find anything on them. So it's like they just went into obscurity and they're gone. So weird.
I agree.
And number 6, I have Hobbs, Angel of Death.
Yeah.
I do like these guys quite a bit too. They only really had the 3 albums, and of course, Peter Hobbs passed away in 2019, which is kind of shitty. But I kind of like their stuff. Very kind of, I guess, Slayer, lots of Slayer vibes with their style. I mean, obviously, the Angel of Death references is,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a Slayer take. So like Peter was in a band called Tyrus originally in the 80s. I don't think they ever got past the demo stage. And then eventually he moved over and started this as a side project, but it became his main band. It's too bad he passed away though.
Yeah.
Kind of sad. I think they're a pretty good band.
And I agree. He was like one of the OG like thrash guys in the Australian scene for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just too bad that he passed away. And then Desecrators, number 5 is the band that it's a newer band. They have 2 albums out. I got in these guys when they first started. So they did To the Gallows in 2017 and The Summoning in 2021. But I'm hearing that the band's on hold. So I don't know if that means that they're all quitting. So they've been on hold since 2022, which is too bad because I like The Summoning quite a bit. I think it's lots of great crunchy guitars, lots of good riffs. It's just too bad. Like you get a new thrash band and all of a sudden they may not be around anymore. But what can you do? And then I have Forearm on my list. I like Forearm a lot too. It's more like groove thrash. I did see them live when they played with Testament and Flotsam and Jetsam back in, I think it was 2017 or something. It was a while back. Good. Those guys are really good. They put on a really good show. I like their music. I like their album. The album that I like is Submission for Liberty, which is a really solid album that came out in 2012. But look them up if you want to find a band that's kind of on the groove side, but still pretty solid. Like you won't go wrong with a band like that. Now, the next band I just recently discovered, not too long ago, Sadistic Execution. And they're kind of death black thrash, if you want to call that. I don't know. They have broke up. They're not a band anymore. But I kind of like them for one reason. Their mascot's the spiky skeletal mascot. And I kind of liked it. Every album, this character shows up. But this is like really dark, kind of dark atmospheric. It's hard-hitting style. If you're into that kind of music, you might like it. I like them. I mean, they're not technically a pure thrash band, but I lump them in this group because they do have thrash riffs in their songs, so they're pretty decent. And then I have Mortification at number 3, which I do like a lot. Now I know this is death metal thrash, but they have 14 albums, and they're 14 albums. I own the first 2, and I really like the first 2 albums quite a bit. I love their logo. I love their sound. Yeah, it's just I know not quite thrash, but
self-titled.
They're on my list too. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, vocals are definitely death, but some of the early stuff is pretty thrashy as well.
Total thrashy.
Yeah.
On the first 2 specifically.
Yeah, exactly.
Self-titled album's really good.
Yeah. I had that album too. That's a great album.
Yeah.
And then number two, I have Mortal Sin. So what more to say about them? They're probably the OG band in Australia for thrash. Great band. Number one for me is Dark Order. I love these guys. They're a more of a modern kind of thrash band from Australia. They've been around since 1998. Their debut album, 5,000 Years of Violence, look that up. That album is fucking awesome. I totally love that album. There are a lot of really good riffs in this band. That first album is a hidden gem, man. Nobody talks about it, but I think they're great. And they have 4 albums out now, and they're still a band and still playing. So if you don't know them, look them up. I think you won't be disappointed. So
Cool.
that's my number one.
Wicked.
We had 3, I think.
We had 2.
3 overlaps. Okay,
Alright.
Jim, let's see what you got.
So my number 10's kind of a southern rock band, King Gizzard and the Lizard
Oh
Wizard.
yeah, they're
Oh,
great.
I love them.
Yeah.
Me too.
They're pretty cool. I'll be honest, didn't know they were Australian.
Oh, I did. Yeah, they're great.
Actually,
That's
neither
pretty
did
cool.
I, to be honest.
Yeah. No, they're pretty cool. So I picked them up. I think they just had an album out, but it comes up all the time on my playlist for when I seek out new stuff. So, but I've listened to them. They've got quite a few albums. They're pretty good. My number 9 is Harlot.
Yeah.
Extinction from 2017, I think it is. That album I'm familiar with, but I'm not totally familiar with the band. So they're pretty cool. My number 8 is a band that brought out an album in 2020 called In Malice's Wake.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if you're familiar with them.
I am.
Yeah, it's called The Blindness of Faith.
Yeah.
It's pretty good album, pretty good thrash band. My number 7 is Hellbringer.
Ooh.
Awaken from the Abyss, I think was in 2016. That's a cool album.
Mm.
My number 6 was Mortification. I had, you know what? And I didn't even realize they had 14 albums. I wrote down,
Yeah.
I was shocked as hell because
Yeah.
I have or had a copy of the original, their self-titled debut album. I love that album.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually pretty cool. And I find is death vocals, I mean, maybe a little more thrashy back then, but still deathy. But it's total thrash. It's like death set to thrash. Like it's hilarious how it's total death thrash for me. Number 5, I've got Armored Angel.
Okay.
Don't know if you've heard of them. I don't think they had a lot of albums. Wings of Death, I think it was in the early 90s. Then number 4 is Allegiance.
Oh, yeah.
They only ever had 2 albums, and I think their last album was Destitution in 1994. They're a pretty good band. Another defunct band I picked for number 3, and the only reason why I know this band is a buddy of mine had a I don't know how he got it, but he had this album Suspended Animation by Cryogenic. I think it was out in 97, but they had 2 albums. I'm not sure what their other album was. Then my number two is Nothing Sacred. Their 2020 album, their No Gods album, that's actually really good album. Really good
their
album.
first, Jim? Let Us Pray from 88?
I don't have that, no.
That's on my list. You got to get that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to check it out. I'll have to check that out. And then my number 1's Mortal Sin. I mean, I love these 2 albums. And now I'm throwing in their last digital album with those 2. So
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we had a couple, 1 or 2 overlaps there. So go through mine. They're not really in order; they're just 10.
Same with
yeah. So the first is a band that I've showed here before on What's Spinning. It's a band called Wartooth. And the amazing, incredible, their 1 album. Sadly, they did everything themselves. 2 brothers. It's called Program Dichotomy. And it's probably the best thrash album, in my opinion, to ever come out of Australia. This thing is like vicious thrash, exactly like Temple of the Dam by Exodus, right? So they wear their influence on their sleeve, no doubt. Uh, but yeah, I can't recommend this thing enough. Everybody in the Instagram community who loves thrash went crazy for this masterpiece. But you had to order it from the band. It had to be shipped from Australia. So yeah, I don't know how it could be found at this point, but they're technically on break. So hopefully we get something else after. Number two, Ken, you had this Hobbs Angel
Yeah.
of Death. Yeah, the self-titled for me, I really like from 1988. That's really good, and the production is surprisingly good on the record. Right, it sounds good. I definitely get like Slayer vibe, but I also get Sodom vibe, particularly in the vocals on this one. Number three is another album I've showed once or twice. It's a band called Teramis, Stretch of the Imagination. It's 1991. So this is like tech thrash, and I've said it before, but this is the technical thrash version of Canada's Rush. So it's really good. It's technical, the Geddy Lee style vocals, but it's thrash metal, and it's technical to the extreme. Only two albums. The first was in '87 called Queen of Thieves. They're both fantastic, and you could get a CD nowadays that has both of them on it. So it's worth getting. Berserker, we talked about that.
Mhm.
My number four. Love that album. Uh, Then Jim, you mentioned the newer one. Was no, which was the one you mentioned? Oh no, Nothing Sacred, you said, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no. So this one's Addictive. This was another band that not well known, but it was called Pity of Man in 1989. So this is probably again, where's the influences on their sleeve? This is Kill 'Em All, Metallica all the way.
Oh,
If you like Kill 'Em All and
Yes.
find somebody, I know Jim, you do, and you don't mind a band that's gonna copy that style overtly, but it's a fun album. I always liked it. I have it on an old TDK cassette because I don't know where the hell to find that. But
Yeah.
Addictive Pity of Man. Then Harlot, you already mentioned them, Jim. I think they're a pretty cool modern thrash band. Like for me, I like Extinction, which was 2017, and then their latest, Detritus of the Final Age, I think are really good. And then Nothing Sacred. So I had Let Us Pray. Uh,
Hmm.
from 1988. I think it's really good. This is actually, my understanding, is the OG thrash band in Australia. They formed
oh,
in '83, 2 years
okay,
before Mortal Sin
Ah.
came together.
okay.
But yeah, it's good. Like I really like the singer. Like I mean, he doesn't sing like AK at all, but he's very clean. He has that similar style. He's in the upper range, but like it almost sounds traditional metal. And this crosses, it's like a cross of thrash and traditional metal. And so, yeah, it's really good. Musicianship is good, but the production is rough. So heads up there on this one. And so this is one where I realized they did an album in 2021 when I was researching for this. So I got to check that out. Number eight, Mortification. Yeah, you guys both had that. We all agree. My favorite is the original,
Yeah,
the self-titled from
Yeah.
'91, and I think it's interesting because most people don't know, but they're actually a Christian band.
that's
Yes.
right. Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
an interesting spin. And one of our followers, Metalhead, had kind of got me into those guys a while back. So that's cool. And Jim, just like you, I had Allegiance, Destitution.
Hmm.
I would picture this being an album Ken would really like. A
Hmm.
lot of people compare it to the early Machine Head albums.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't like Machine Head, as you guys know. It's not my favorite. Like, I
Mm,
don't think this goes as far into the more modern thrash as Machine Head, but it definitely has some of those '90s groove metal elements. But I think it's really solid. I like it. And then my last one, I picked something that just like you, Jim, something a bit unique, like your like Gizzard Lizard. But I picked. I always have trouble saying it. Caligula's Horse.
oh,
So this is like
Yes.
a prog metal band.
Yep.
Yeah,
And they do everything from prog rock, prog metal, jazz, and everything under the sun gets mixed in there. Just fantastic musicianship, 6 albums. And they actually had a great album this year called Charcoal Grace. So yeah, that's my list.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
between the three of us, I think we tackled quite a bit.
Yep.
yeah. So if you want to do some research,
Well,
listen to the podcast, and then you can go find some of these bands.
you can listen to this while you put another shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
And Jim, you mentioned King Gizzard. Like,
Yeah.
do you have the album, which is their most metal album, Infest the Rat's Nest?
No, I don't. I've listened to them and listened to them quite a bit, but I didn't even know that they were. I don't own any of
Oh,
their albums, but I didn't even know they were Australian. They came up when I was looking for a couple of bands, and I was like, so then
okay.
I obviously checked them out more, and I was like, I didn't even know they were Australian.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that either. But if I would start with Infest the Rat's Nest,
Yeah.
because that's actually their metal album.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good place to
They
start.
have a very weird band name
Oh, yeah.
when you think about it. They remind me of like the Lord Weird Slothhag. If you guys know
Yeah,
that band, which is a very bizarre. I think good music, but just bizarre names.
yeah. And
But I
and
hear
they're
good
like
things.
they're
Mhm.
like the Grateful Dead, right? Like every record
Yes.
store day, every like they have
Yep.
like all these bootlegs that get released and
Yeah.
live albums. Like every year, there's like 3 new like records to buy. I can't even keep up.
I think they're just a fun band. Like it
Yeah,
kind of makes you like to be a fan. Like I'm going to get into them a little bit more, but I was like, man, I didn't realize because they're always on, like you say, there's so much new coming out, EPs and
oh yeah,
that all of a
everything.
sudden
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
come up on my new release for a song, and I'm like, oh, geez, these guys again, you know?
yeah. Like in a
Yeah,
record
Robert
store,
from
they almost dominate a whole bin just for all their
Yeah.
releases. It's crazy.
wow. Robert from the Metal Meltdown, he did a whole video on them. So I
Okay.
watched his video because I don't know much about them, but they sound like an interesting band from what I've heard about them.
The Metal Mount, that's the one where I guess Robert uses like the F word every second word.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
okay. I yeah. Okay.
yeah. He did he because the album came out this year, then 2024. So he did a review of it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had a,
Yeah, that's
I had
the
a chance to
Flight
hear it.
album. The one I got into was the Petro Dragon Apocalypse.
Oh
That
wow.
one has the actual dragon on it, and it's got the factory in the background. But I'll
Okay.
have to check out that medley one. What's it called again?
Oh, and Infest the Rat's Nest.
Ah, yes, 2019.
Yeah.
Cool.
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 All right. So any last comments, boys, before we start to close this?
Just
No.
want to wish everybody a happy new year.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's
Yeah.
true.
This will be
2025
coming
around the corner. Lots
January
of cool
3rd.
releases.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah,
First
good point,
podcast
Jim.
for the year.
Okay, so cool. So then this brings us to the end of episode 41. So Ken's going to take the reins next week. And we're going back to Germany for Exhumer. And I believe it's their debut, right? That's the first album,
Yeah.
Ken?
Yeah.
Possessed by Fire from
Yeah.
86.
Yep.
Wicked.
Yep. Great album. I love this album.
Yeah. Does the album cover get you excited?
It did actually. I like this album cover.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
it's cool.
reminds me of the Road Warrior. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla.
Yeah. That's what it reminds me of, the Road Warrior. I just for some reason when I see that cover all the time, but I like that cover.
All
It's
right.
really cool. It's
All
a good
right.
album.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in to another episode. As we said, we greatly appreciate it. And thanks to my co-hosts, Ken and Jim. Fun as always. And we'll catch everybody on next week's episode. Have a good night.
You bet. Yep. Take care.